All right, and we are live. What's up, everybody? This is Francis over here from PlayerEssence.com, and we have a treat for you guys. We had a little technical difficulties. We're starting up about 30 minutes late, but that's okay because I have a fantastic guest. As you guys all know, the man behind whatever you want to call it, the anti-Nintendo conspiracy, Unity, and the Wii U will finish the revolution. This is John Lucas is joining me here with that brilliant post. And like I said to you guys, if you guys have not read that post, if you look at the description of my latest video, make sure you read that at some point. We're going to talk about what he said in there, but read the whole thing, or you can watch Nintendo's video. He breaks down the really important parts as well. But I'm guessing all of you guys have already seen it, so without further ado, I have John Lucas here. You want to say what's up to everybody?
How you doing, everybody? My name is John Lucas, game player extraordinaire, playing since I was 4 years old, Pac-Man 1980.
Nice, nice, nice. So you've been playing Pac-Man's. What kind of got you, just to kind of tell a little the audience a little bit more about yourself, what kind of got you into gaming? What was your first, like, aha moment? Like, oh my gosh, I love video games. What game was that, or what system?
No, it was the one I called. It's Pac-Man.
Oh, Pac-Man. Okay, okay. So
4 years
Pac-Man really
old.
got nice, nice. 4 years old, got the Pac-Man going. Okay, so that's pretty
1980.
cool. 1980, man. That's cool. That's definitely cool. I started playing in the really early 90s. I started playing myself. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get into some of the nitty gritty with this interview and or this discussion. So we're going to talk about the Wii first of all, because I'm guessing that, like I said, many of you guys have read the article. So we're going to jump right in. And you talked about the Wii and how Nintendo kind of abandoned the Wii, and you were confused on why they did that. Can you elaborate why you felt Nintendo got rid of the Wii, and if it was a good idea or not?
Well, when you look at the whole history of the situation, I'm always looking at things at a historical perspective. What the Wii, when the revolution, when the Wii came in, when they unleashed that control in September the 16th, 2005, right then and there, I knew this is where the future of the industry was going. And everything that unfurled from that point on, it just showed how right Nintendo was. The name was right, the marketing approach was right, the price is right. They hit like a perfect storm with the Wii. I mean, when you sell out for 2 years straight and you can't find stock, that lets you know how powerful this was. And they just kept breaking milestones, kept defying convention, defying what was supposed to be. Everybody said this would be a fad, it would end a year or two. It gets higher, they want the HD power. No, it did not, because it was not about visuals. Everybody gets the thing about video games is some people forget that they get more caught up on the video than the games. The game should have the broad font, should have the bold font. Video should have the regular font. It's video games, not video games. And Nintendo recognized what the game was. They understood that people were getting alienated. They were not following what's supposed to be a mainstream pastime. We don't want this to be something underground. We don't want this to be something that's so-called only the nerds play. They wanted this thing to be accepted as just like older men going to the park playing chess. It's supposed to be like that. Video games should not be seen as you know as a peculiar hobby. It should not be seen that way. It's another form of gaming. People play backgammon for thousands of years. There's no problem with that. You can play chess, you can play checkers, anything. There's people that have paid million of dollars to play a ball around the court, throw it around the field.
Mm-hmm.
So Nintendo was doing the right thing with this console, and every time everybody counted them out, it was like the little engine that could. Every time somebody counted them out, they would defy everything. 2010 was another year. The other guys finally caught up with what Nintendo was doing. The Move came out, Kinect came out. Xbox was trying to revamp itself. They put out the new Xbox experience, the Avatar. They usually have the blades. Remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah, remember that definitely.
And everybody, the whole press was like almost rooting for Microsoft to upend what Nintendo was doing with the Wii. And Nintendo just said, you know what? Let's paint it red. It doesn't matter what you do. I put out a new Super Mario Brothers Wii. I give you that 4-player Mario experience that you can play in your living room with your friends. and they topped the Xbox 360 that month in December. They topped them for the year 2010. It was not over for the console. The console was still red hot, and the red painted console signified the red hot of the red. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So 2011, it should have been just more of the same, just carrying on and carrying on and carrying on, and Nintendo suddenly changed direction. And I couldn't figure out why, with such success and such breakthroughs they made, they would change the industry before your eyes. Sony and Microsoft were changing themselves to fit Nintendo's model, as always. And then they stopped. They just said, okay, we're gonna put out a reissue of Super Mario All Stars 25th anniversary, and we'll call it quits. All right, we'll put out Zelda in the year as a kiss off, and you're done. And I'm like, no. And then they put out the family edition. I said, you know, they were stripping the thing down. It was basically killing what they put together, and that angered me at first, because what they put together. Listen, I brought my Wii to my family. I was able to have family get-togethers about video games. That cousin who never played Pac-Man when Pac-Man was around in the arcades back in them days, he was asking me about games. This is what we were doing, and for Nintendo to walk away from this felt like betrayal to me. I felt like, this is, why are you leaving your revolution here?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so do you think, before we wrap this one up, do you think that third parties, Nintendo was, you know, getting into the head from a lot of third parties? Because a lot of third parties will say the system isn't strong enough. A lot of people, like you talk about the media members, you got guys like Greg Miller from IGN, you got guys like Hip Hop Gamer basically blasting the Wii. You know, do you think that people like that and third parties got into Nintendo's head? Because with the Wii U, they were trying to be this whole third-party type deal. You know what I'm saying? They were trying to get all those ports and do all that. Do you think that some of those third parties got in their head and they felt that they can retain their Wii audience plus get those third parties to even be bigger, but they have to drop the Wii in order to do that? Do you think that kind of crept into their mind at all, or no?
Well, here's the thing I recognize. When I look back to September 16, 2005, when you saw that first Revolution controller display, that promo they had, with people of different walks of life and ages and groups, I think people made a mistake of looking at the Wii as a casual console. I hate the words casual and hardcore. I think that is a disservice to the real demographics of games. It's not about. There's no such thing as casual and hardcore. You know,
I hate that crap too. I hate that crap too.
Yes, and you can have a grandmother play Bejeweled or Candy Crush Saga hardcore. And you can have some college dudes, 18-year-olds, 25-year-olds, playing Madden casually. There's no such thing as a casual game or a hardcore game, and there's no such thing as casual games and hardcore games. Nintendo created the Wii to be for everybody, and that but that promo they showed in 2005 exemplified that. You had party games, you had a guy looking at first-person shooter, you had a sword player, you had people chopping up onions or whatever they had. You remember that thing?
Yeah, I remember.
So that's what they aimed for. They came in here. They gave the third parties an opportunity, because it goes back to the NES days. I'm gonna get into that conversation later. Ever since the original PlayStation came along, the third parties found an escape from Nintendo, because they didn't like the way Nintendo handled business. The way Nintendo handled business was a necessary thing to make the business survive. You wouldn't have a business right now if Nintendo didn't do what they did in the 1980s. But the third parties want to control. They didn't like to be under. So when Sony was a weak first party, they don't know how to make their own games. They said, okay, we'll let you have the floor. You be the star of this console. The third party got to get addicted to that and used to that. And they it's basically upside. It's pear shaped. It's upside down. They wanted to feel like they're the boss. They get to call the shots. The last first party that's here, because Sega went out, says, no, that's not how business is done. I set the tone. You follow my lead. That's how it's supposed to be done. One becomes before three. First comes before third. And Nintendo said, okay, we got a new garden for you to explore here. We have this new controller. We have these new. You can come up with pool games, Zorro, Star Wars, whatever you want to do. Let your imagination run wild. Come to my console. Bring your ideas. Bring the same thing you did to the DS. Bring your ideas, and let's enrich this gaming experience. The third parties didn't want to do that. Their bread and butter was built with Microsoft and Sony chasing these tech dollars, and they basically reneged on the revolution. Basically said this was too powerful. If we give Nintendo the power now, they're gonna have total control. Like I said, first party plus second party plus third party Nintendo party, because they have the exclusive of their own, the Mario's, the Zeldas, and all that. And then you have the third party getting in. They'll have all the gaming. They'll have everything you need. You might play a little bit on Sony, you might play a little bit on Microsoft, but they get most of the sales and they get most of the stroke. The third party does not want to make that happen again.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically purposely, and it's not a power thing, because the Genesis. I go back to the Genesis. I grew up with this thing. That's why I know this so good. The Genesis can only put out 512 colors. The Super Nintendo could put out 32,768 colors. It was vastly more powerful than the Genesis. Yet in those days, they made those games fit the Genesis limitations. And the Genesis was taking it to the Super Nintendo back in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. It was a very much weaker console, but Sonic was making Mario look twice. I remember these days.
No, I remember them too. That's where my era comes in. Early 90s. I remember the days. I wasn't in the whole thing, but I definitely remember the days.
And I love Sega because Sega showed you that it's not the most powerful. It never was the most powerful console. You look at the television from the early 80s, the Atari 2600 with its very vast power limitations outsold that thing by far, like 10 times as much. Mm-hmm. So it's not about a power argument. The PS2 was weaker than the GameCube and the Xbox. None of that matters. That never matters. It's a matter of politics. I never believed it was a power argument why they didn't go with the Wii. It was a politics argument. And when they saw that the Nintendo was able to survive in drought, when the 64 was starved for support, when the GameCube was starved for support, and they survived, and now they're here with the Wii, pretty much doing it by themselves and thriving, it scared the hell out of them. They didn't want to give their power away, so they blocked, or they gave like a piss poor effort or a second hand B grade, C grade effort, and said, oh, they didn't sell, but we didn't do anything, and Nintendo says, you know what? I don't like being pigeonholed as the casual console. That was not the intention of this console. Just Dance, Ubisoft made great money. But Just Dance is selling right now on the Wii.
Yeah, it is. I think it's almost past 1 million units right now, or it's very near it.
So it shows you that if you put the effort behind the console, you will get your dividend. If you treat the console as something that is important, you will get your money's worth. If you treat it like an afterthought, you will get afterthought money.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to move on to. Sorry to cut you off there. We're going to move on to Microsoft. Okay, if you want to talk about that just a little bit, just because I'm looking through here and some of the people were saying on the website, they wanted you to talk about where Microsoft's irresponsibility with the Xbox One. And with the E3 presentation, and now how they reversed the whole situation. But can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on the irresponsibleness or how irresponsibly Microsoft was with the Xbox One? I can't talk right now.
Well, this leads into what we just got through talking about, because before I get to that part, I'm gonna tie it together, because it comes together. What was done with the Xbox One at E3 2013 is a direct result of the third party's political machinations. You know what I'm saying? And Nintendo wanted to bring these guys. They wanted a new Wii U. They made the Wii U to basically correct what the third party did to the Wii. That's what the Wii U was about. And they opened the floor and just said, "Come here. This is where you need to be. We're gonna give you the Wii again with more." Third party didn't want to do that. And when you see them have when you see the third party's rule, that's what you have. But you have Xbox One. When a third party take command of this industry outright, you'll have on this DLC, you'll have microtransactions, you'll have all these, these very restrictive, these practices that are anti-customer. They want to shut down GameStop for used game still. It's basically without a strong first party influence, this is where the industry will be going. And it will end up killing the industry. It will end up crashing the industry just like it did in 1983. Xbox irresponsibility is, they thought after Nintendo dropped the Wii out, after they sort of de-emphasized the console, Microsoft saw themselves as a king, especially in America. Not in Japan, of course, never in Japan. Mm-hmm. But America saw themselves as the actual. They won the fight. Nintendo dropped out. They quit. We won. So now they're going into the next generation thinking, well, we can just do anything we want because we get all the sales. We're making Xbox Live. We put PS3 as our junior. We're going to carry our momentum to the next generation. They saw themselves as the actual champs, and they didn't have any kind of nobody was so it's sort of like a celebrity that has a bunch of yes men around them. Nobody was saying no. Nobody was saying watch what you're doing. Do you really think this is why? They wasn't checking themselves. And the third party put all that stuff in their head of the stuff they always wanted. The stuff they always wanted to control their profits and make the best maximum sales for themselves. And because Microsoft is a weak first party, they're weaker than Sony is. They don't have Halo is Bungie. You know what I'm saying? They don't have anything they make for themselves that has the longevity of the stand power. And so the third parties tell them what to do. They command the console, and they put out all of these bad practices. And the gamers woke up and said, "Wow, what?" And they don't really connect it that it's really. They think it's just Microsoft. Microsoft is following the lead of the people that supply their games for them. This is what they want.
Mm-hmm.
This is what EA wants. This is what Activision wants. This is what Capcom wants. These are what they are pushing.
Okay. What I wanted to discuss as far as to just go a little bit more on that one, do you feel that nobody in the major media called them out on that other than people just blaming Microsoft? What I kept on hearing from the major media outlets like IGN and from GameSpot, from all those places, all of them blame Microsoft, which is fine, you blame Microsoft, but what was the reason why you feel that none of them blamed the third parties? Is it because they don't want to lose their exclusivity deals or anything like that? What's your reasoning why people weren't actually blaming third parties as well? Well, some people were, but a majority of the people were pointing the finger at Microsoft. What's the reasoning behind that?
Because people don't understand how the industry, they don't understand the history of the business. They don't understand they don't understand the structure of the business. I think that's what it is. A lot of people, they don't. You have to take it back to 1985. It goes back to the very beginnings. Actually, go back to 72. 72 and 85 are the most important years. 72 is when video gaming was made a business. It was a hobby before. People used to do it at MIT. Make Space War. They sent it locally to each other. Nolan Bushnell and Ralph Baer brought it into the business world, in arcade and home consoles. And from there, it was an American business, which started in the United States. And after a while, he couldn't make the 2600 by himself. He had to bring in a bigger moneyed interest. That's why he brought Warner Communications, now known as Time Warner, to help him bring the 2600 business. And eventually, the stockholders, or the board of directors, we're going to call them, they ran the founder out of his own company, which set the tone for the end, because all these guys looked at video games was like making soap or widgets. They don't care about the integrity of the craft. They just care about a bottom line dollar, sell it, $1 million this, or $2 million this. They don't care about what's made. And when Atari crashed, it was an end result of those kind of mentalities. The thing was dead in America. It was supposed to go PCs in the mid-'80s. That's where gaming was supposed to go. You couldn't even get consoles starting in Toys R Us. This coming out of Japan, comes out of nowhere, resurrects this thing. It's 1985, and that company is Nintendo. And they rewrite the book. They say we're going to put quality first. The seal matters. We're going to say we're going to revive retailer confidence. We're going to revive customer confidence. And they brought the business back to life. The PC world was compromised because of the rise of the rebirth of the console. That's why Electronic Arts started as a computer company, and as the Nintendo Entertainment System got too popular, his board of directors said we need to make some of this console money. That's why we got Skate or Die and Jordan versus Bird and stuff like that, because they have to go where the money is. And after that, everybody from Japan jumps on Sega and all the other guys, SNK. Everybody piles on and turns the industry into a Japanese industry. But the root of the industry, then and now, is Nintendo. It's because every time they change the controller, everybody follows suit. Every time they change the game design, everybody follows suit. It shows you who's the lead. That's why they don't follow everybody else. And a lot of people are not educated about this, because I don't know if I don't want to make an accusation. I think they're more more in tune to an American company running. I think they sort of resent that Japan is the capital of the gaming world. I think that's an underlying mentality about this. But as Sony came along and the third parties, built that console up, and then they made those record sales, everybody started seeing Nintendo as the out of touch old man. They forgot what really the engine of the business is. And as Microsoft joined later on, everybody sees them you notice when you see the media talk about gaming, they say Xbox versus PlayStation, PlayStation versus Xbox. You'll never talk about Nintendo in the conversation at all because they don't understand how the business really works. They see the sales and they think the sales only is what makes the business work. It's not that. They don't understand how those guys lost billions to make those sales. The money Sony should have made from the PlayStation 1 and 2 should have been a lot more than they made. They were based on record success to be profitable. If they lost record success as they did with the PS3, that's when you lose billions and billions and billions. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Nintendo makes the model where you can put out a very good amount of tech for a cheap price, sell games in the tens and 20s, 30s of millions on a regular basis, and stay profitable the entire time. And nobody looks at that and sees that is how the business is supposed to work. That's how the thing was designed. That's how Nintendo designed the business to work. The other guys try to get above them by tech wizardry and hype to get over that natural game making advantage. So the press follows the suit of them because they see, if they have the money, these are big conglomerates throwing away money after money. It's payola going on. They want to promote themselves, and the gaming press is almost like their right hand man. Mm-hmm. And that's why you'll never see them really look at the real culprit behind why Microsoft did what they did with Xbox One, because they don't really understand the business. A lot of these guys that comment about the game, they don't really understand how the business works. They look at the thing from Forbes and they see a profit margin. They try to say that video games is as big as movies, and they're not. They're big, but for it to be so fragile that you have so many bankruptcies and layoffs constantly, whether the game is a hit or not, so it's not a very stable industry. Movie industry, you can have a flop and they don't lose their jobs like that. It's a lot more entrenched. The game business makes more money because they have more. They sell their units for $60 a piece, while movie tickets sell for $10 a piece. Mm-hmm. The difference. So they see raw revenue and think that's the determinant of success, and it's a little bit more to the story than that. But a lot of people will never look at the real underpinnings of the business, and you'll have misreporting like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand definitely, and I think that's kind of like the media as far as what's kind of thrown in our face. I think kind of what you said is, why Michael Pachter is pushed in our face, why like the UK video game charts, even though the UK is just such a small market, they play the reason why I think is because they play the exact type of games that Americans play. Call of Duty's always in the top, all of those games, and more of the Japanese games aren't in there, so the media wants you to know about the UK, whereas kind of the Japanese charts and stuff like that are kind of pushed to the side, really. Yeah, well, that's the funny thing, and I was telling people about that. It's like the Japanese charts are only relevant when there's something to say negative about Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? Like when there's something to say negative about them, if a game outsells it from somewhere else, that's when you start hearing all these stories. Otherwise, a lot of main websites don't even report on the Japanese charts. But you'll always hear about the UK, which I always thought was funny, but kind of goes in line with what you were saying. But moving on to the next thing that I want to talk to you about. In your article, you said that third parties are hell-bent, that's quote, hell-bent on creating the same crash that we endured, or that the industry endured in the 80s with the new generation of consoles, the 8th generation. Can you discuss why you feel that way?
Well, it follows what I have been saying here is it's like this. James Brown said you had to pay the cost to be the boss. You know what I'm saying? You can't come out here. You don't make the platform. The third parties are mercenaries. They come out here. All they're about is selling games. They have to sell. That's why you see a lot of them selling on a yearly basis, like a Call of Duty every year or Madden every year, because they depend on raw. All they make is games. They have to depend on raw game sales. Unlike a platform maker, which can control the platform and the games at the same time and make a nice synergy. The third party is not responsible. They don't have to be responsible because they don't have to think about, the effects of the intention. All they want to do is make their bottom line, as they should. They're not supposed to. That's why I call them the kids in my metaphor before, because they don't have to worry about paying the bill. They don't have to worry about fending off the ESRB or fending off government and making an ESRB. They don't have to worry about making a platform that will sustain for future generations, not just try to top out and put the moon and stars in one console and make things at losses. This is why I said, I made a point later on in that thread, the Unity thread, much later on, that it's like almost who's zooming who in this business. Microsoft and Sony, they are using the third-party developers. They're using the game business for their ulterior motive. They're doing it for future ends. Sony uses it as a gateway, a portal for all their media products. You want to buy Blu-ray or my movies or whatever. They want to sell all things Sony and use PlayStation as a portal to bring people there. Microsoft wants to make they already run the PC world, but they want to make a physical PC that can run entertainment. They basically want to have a hardware presence. So they use this as a set-top box, and that's why you see Xbox One with all this TV and all this, this cable and all this nonsense. Their motives for gaming is not for gaming's sake. They're using gaming to get somewhere else. At the same time, the third parties are using these two platform makers to have a show of power. But they don't, because Microsoft and Sony are dependent on the thirds to supply them with the games. They have to sort of bow to what the third party's demands are. The third said, I want these kind of graphics. I want these kind of textures. I want these kind of features. And they're going to follow what they want, even at the loss to themselves. But with the PS3 and the Xbox One, Xbox 360 even, all the Xboxes, let's call it what it is. They've never made money on the Xbox. Xbox One lost billions. It was either 2 or 4 billion. Xbox 360, all the sales it's made, it's lost more money than it made. It's not making money. I know Microsoft has much money to waste, of course, but it's not good business to waste billions to sell a game. That's backwards. You're not supposed to. It's not good business. Triple H Hunter Hearst Helmsley says it's not good for business, sir.
Triple H reference. That's awesome.
I'm a big wrestling fan.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I can tell by your avatar. It had the nation of the denomination on there. So,
but we go now another topic soon. but the Nintendo will never follow behind these things. Nintendo keeps it within budget. They will never. It's very strange with the 3DS and the Wii U why they're going out of budget now. It's a special case why they're doing it this time. But every single time, every console they put out, they've always kept this thing where they get day one they sell it. The console will sell at a profit. The games will sell at a profit. Think about it. You look at the chart. Go to Walmart or Best Buy right now. The DS is fading away and the 3DS is taking its place. But you still see DS games on the shelf. You look at New Super Mario Brothers, Mario Kart DS, and Super Mario 64 DS. These games are 7, 8, and 9 years old now. They're still selling at full price, and people are still buying them at full price. That's how you run a strong business. And Nintendo has it set up where people will buy. The PC world got attacked because people won't buy this. They're hacking or they're pirating or bootlegging. And the PC guys are leaving the PC because it's a bad market environment. And everybody's coming to the console. That's why you don't see PC guys in PC no more. Even Valve is trying to leave the PC with the Steam machine. Nintendo keeps the console market viable and creates value and creates lasting value. It's the same thing that goes on with the mobile market. They're cheapening themselves. They're selling stuff for $1, almost like, I want to say like, I'm not going to say like somebody on 125th Street, the HOs. We're not going to say they sell themselves like a $2 one. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're saying, but the mobile market is a piece of crap in my opinion. That is a market just waiting to crash. It really is, in my opinion. It's ridiculous.
I've done research and I've seen somebody say they need to bring licensing fees to the mobile market. That's the same thing Nintendo did in the 80s. They saw this before. Nintendo makes sure that the console business can be strong. That's why I can outdo. There's more PCs in the world than consoles. There's more smartphones in the world than consoles. But the console will always be the root because they add the value. There's only one guy in the business that's holding the value together. It's not Sony and it's not Microsoft. It's Nintendo. and they're gonna keep losing billions, chasing the third party's whims and wishes because they're spoiled brats. They're like, I want it now, I want it now. They don't care. They don't have to pay the mortgage. They don't have to pay the rent. They don't have to pay the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly why you see Nintendo on their social policies, like the thing with Swap Note and how they had to end that. It's dreadful for me too. I love Swap Note, but they will. That's why the friend codes came out. They can do on. They've been doing online since the NES days. Nintendo Modem, that was online way back then.
Mm-hmm.
So that we saw they did that in the '80s. That's old stuff for them. They can do it. It's a Teleview. They can do this anytime they want, but there's a responsibility. They're always going to this thing thinking about more than just the dollar, and it influences everything how they create things. You don't want your online experience where you have racial slurs and sexist slurs in front of your little children. You don't want pedophiles reaching your kids. You don't want all this negative. The internet has a great side and has a dark side. Nintendo recognizes that dark side, and that's how they create their products. They create. Matter of fact, that's why you see local multiplayer from Nintendo instead of online multiplayer as a default, because they recognize that we can make everything online multiplayer. You think they can't do that with Mario? They can do that. But the problem is they say tech divides us. Tech puts us where we're all talking through our text phones, or we're talking through email. We're not interacting with each other face to face. So they create games that put a social component. That's why the Wii U does a Miiverse the way it does. And you see the Miiverse is one of the most positive online experiences I've ever seen. Everybody's supportive. Everybody gets along. It's moderated. It's none of that trolling and negative behavior you see on the internet.
It's heavily moderated. It's also heavily moderated too. So that also helps keep it friendly for everybody. But I also wanted to talk about another thing that you said in your article here. And we're kind of moving on to more focusing on Nintendo a little bit more. And it says, quoting your article, Nintendo proved they could virtually go it alone and not just survive, but succeed beyond imagination. And this terrifies the third parties. That's the real reason why they didn't get behind the Wii. Politics, not horsepower. Now, I wanted to add one more thing to that, and I was thinking a lot about this when you said it. Is this the reason why you're not seeing? I want you to answer that question, or more like just elaborate on it. But I also want you to talk about this too. Is that the reason why you're not seeing third parties get behind the 3DS? Because the 3DS is by far, even with the Xbox One and PS4 out, the 3DS is by far selling more than both of them. The numbers are starting to come in, and worldwide, the 3DS is absolutely dominating. Yet third parties are not putting anything out for the system. Well, Japanese third parties are, and the Japanese third parties are smart. They're selling. You know what I'm saying? Like we see third party games on the top, like Attack on Titan, Puzzle and Dragon Z. We see all these great third party games coming out for the 3DS and selling well, but the Western developers are not putting it behind there. Is it because they don't want to see the 3DS just be this amazing success, or to help them, or what is your reasoning behind that, them not getting behind the 3DS, even though it sells and it does all this stuff? What's your reasoning behind that?
Well, when I say third party is a very broad category, and you touched on it. There's a difference between the Japanese third party and the American European third parties.
I'm talking more about the American, European. Not the Japanese ones are smart. They're gonna put games out on the system that's selling. But I'm talking about the Western third parties, how they don't want to put games on the 3DS, yet it's by far the best selling device in the world, in America and in Europe. There's no other system selling more than it.
Like I say, it goes back to this power play. Both sets, the Japanese and American ones, and the European ones, the Western ones, they both had grudges against Nintendo for different reasons. The Western grudge against Nintendo goes all the way back to the 1980s. And a lot of people will never, I think people need to put this into their head and remember it as second nature. When Nintendo came with NES and disrupted the home computer market, the PC market of the 80s, they have never been forgiven. They have never been, they have been trying to unseat Nintendo and destroy Nintendo ever since that time, when they were forced to concede that market. They tried to hang on. They tried to bring, the 90s had the Doom, and you had the Quake, and you had Unreal Tournament, and all these things, and eventually the market just crumbled. They had their own platform. and they couldn't hold it together. And now they're using Microsoft and Sony, especially trying to, as you see with the Xbox One and the PS4, bit by bit they were trying to turn to the first party, Sony and Microsoft, into a second PC because they lost the original PC. And they have never forgiven Nintendo for holding the console as a console should be. I see real PC gamers that say they have no interest, my cousin included, that have no interest in the PS4, the Xbox One. They have interest in Wii U because it does something different than the PC already does. The PC developers don't recognize that they're creating redundancy between the Xbox One and the PS4. Because they're so hell-bent on control and trying to say this is my industry. They want to say this is my industry, I made this. I wonder if this is, like I said, I wonder if there's an underlying resentment of Japan being the king of the business. And the Japanese third parties at first were sort of silent at Nintendo's control. But as you've seen with Monster Hunter going from Sony to Nintendo, as you've seen with Dragon Quest going from Sony to Nintendo, they're starting to wake up. Capcom is starting to wake up. Capcom is almost out of business. It's hard to believe. I can't believe Capcom is almost 152 million in the bank. That's ridiculous. And slowly but surely, I knew the Japanese were going to be the first to break. And that's why you see them in the 3DS getting behind. They're basically that's why I say unity, because they're reuniting with Nintendo. They finally wised up and said we got to stop fighting this fight. We're going to Sony. We're making Last of Us and a lot of good games, a lot of in between games, and we're losing money. Konami has not made. They used to make all kind of games. Now they only make a handful because the HD costs are too. Yeah, that's all they make is Metal Gear.
Metal Gear and
Pro Evolution Soccer. They're not able to keep up with this tech race that everybody keeps pushing. And the tech race is somewhat pushed a little bit more from the Western side because they come from the PC world. The PC is the cutting edge. You keep here, you can modify it a few months from here, a few weeks from here, a few years from here. It's always going to be moving. But you can't have a unified market when everything is fragmented like that. That's for a certain sector of people. So it's like the people some people like to drive automatic, some people like to have sticks, some people like to work on their cars in the yard, some people just want to drive. The consoles are the people that just want to drive. That's the people that want automatics. The tinker is like ham radio and regular radio. Some guy like to tinker with the knobs and make a call through ham radio. Some people just want to get there and listen to the music on the radio. They want XM. They don't want to do all this nonsense. So the PC guys don't recognize that they are against a mass market philosophy. The consoles are a mass market product. And the more they keep trying to turn the consoles into a PC, the worse it's going to get for them when they recognize that they're going to make themselves redundant. They're going to basically make the world they just came from. They don't seem to have this understanding. They're basically trying. They're what do we call it? Self-defeating. That's what I'm looking for. It's self-defeating. They don't understand that you need to come off of your arrogance. You couldn't keep your old platform. You don't make a platform. All you do is make games. Somebody has to make the platform where you can put your games on. You can't sell anything. We're trying to make this a video game business, not a video game hobby. It was a video game hobby once. You can make games right now. You can go out there and type up some code and put your game out for free and send it to all your friends. And it's a work of love, But you're not going to make any money off it. You're not going to be able to feed your children off it. You're not going to be able to make a living. And Nintendo is ensuring that you make a living. It's a power struggle. That's what it's about. Japan is waking up, and the West is going to have to be broken. That's what's going to happen. The West is not going to come willingly. The West is going to be. They're going to have to basically be corralled into a corner, and then they have to basically put their hands up and concede. It's going to be Custer's last stand.
It's interesting what you said, especially with the whole turning into the PC thing, because that's something that I can see with the whole x86 architecture, things like that. I honestly think when Nintendo, because the Western third parties have basically crapped all over Nintendo's architecture, but I don't think it's in Nintendo's brain. I don't think they were thinking when they made this to make a difficult architecture, and I don't think the Wii U is some type of difficult piece. I think it's a console. I think it's a console like how it's a console supposed to be made, because you have the guys from Shinen. They say it's extremely easy to develop on the Wii U, and they are very good at developing really good-looking games. And if that team, I don't know how big their team is. I think they have around 20 people, maybe even less. But if they can put out, Wii U games and can really take advantage of the system. I kind of find it hard to believe these Western third parties that say that the architecture is not good, and that it's a problem, and it's, you know, some of them even saying it's difficult or they can't get the power out of it. That just seems to me like they're making excuses. What do you think about that?
Like I say, when you hear people talk about the power, it's just I laugh at this stuff because there was a time when Nintendo used to be the most powerful console. I mean, not counting the Neo Geo, that's another world, but Super Nintendo was nobody can afford that. But
those guys were smoking when they made that console that expensive. That's what was happening with that one.
I don't know what they were smelling.
Yeah.
But Super Nintendo was out of most of the competitors was the strongest. When you look at the 64, now the cartridge offsets everything, I know, but the 64 was the 64 over 32. Come on, it was the most powerful console. Mm-hmm. GameCube, pound for pound, Floyd Mayweather was the was the most powerful console. It was a small, tiny, light box that could put out power like that. And when GameCube failed, it showed that it wasn't a power argument. They went to PS2 was weaker. Come on, they don't want to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt. It's not about power. And Nintendo's been getting GameCube's revenge in the past 2 generations. Wii was built off the GameCube architecture. Wii U is somewhat built off the GameCube architecture. They basically built the best. They basically went to the top of their graphical aims with the GameCube and refined it. They say Iwata was saying in 2001 before he became the president of Nintendo that that horsepower is we're getting to about the end road for it, and they recognize this. And it's like this. You can only see colors red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. I cannot see infrared. I cannot see ultraviolet. You can make a thing run at 120 frames per second. Can I really perceive that? Can I perceive 4K, 8K, 16K? It's nice to have, but do you really need it? Is there really way we need to be pushing your effort in console design? The PC guys, they just they don't seem to understand this fundamental, because it's almost like Tim Allen from it. It's like more power, more power.
Yeah.
It's too. They don't understand what power is for. Power. What do you need power for? It's about gaming. You have games now that can look almost like real life. You have games that look like cartoons on a cartoon show. You mean 3D cartoons, 2D cartoons, old-fashioned Bugs Bunnies. Anything you can imagine that you can put out there on a video game screen. There's no more limitation. The graphics used to matter because you couldn't do Resident Evil on Atari 2600. You couldn't do Left 4 Dead on the Super Nintendo. It was certain reasons why we had to up the power before. We're done now. It's over. You refine it, of course. You try to make things run at a more efficient rate. That goes without saying. But that's not the focus of a console anymore. You're supposed to make. It's supposed to be the graphics used to lead to new types of gameplay. That's also what it used to be. Now graphics just give you a better color gloss, and people buy these $60 monstrosities that look really good, play really short, play really bad. You spend a lot of money on something that has no lasting value, that will not be memorable, and it's going to be a lot of backlash from that. The PC guys, because they have myopia, they can't recognize this. And they are going to run into a wall with this. They just like I said, it's going to be a hard lesson for them to learn, because they're going to be humble this generation. I believe that's why I say unity, because Japanese are coming over willingly. They basically saying we're hanging it up. While the Westerns are going to fight this old fight because they resent any of it. They just got to be broken.
And that's what I really noticed. Like every generation, since I've been gaming, I always get so hyped for the next generation. Going from NES to Super Nintendo, I remember seeing the commercials. It was amazing. There was new styles of gameplay. Going from the Super Nintendo to the PlayStation 1, going from the PlayStation 1 and 64, those two. Going from there to the GameCube, I always saw new types of gameplay, new types of things. Even going to the PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii, there was all sorts of different types. But going from the 7th generation to the 8th, it really doesn't seem like there's any, and I'm not just saying that, because everybody knows I'm a Nintendo fan. I'm just saying that just based on the games. You're looking at the games, and what are the games that are coming out? What are they doing to create new types of gameplay, and I just haven't seen it from the Xbox One and the PS4. And this is the first generation, where I'm not super like excited. Like I didn't go out and rush out and buy the systems. Last generation, I rushed out and bought the PS3. I bought the Xbox 360 within a year of them coming out. Now, I mean, I'm just like, do I really need to spend this and spend on subscription fees? Like, I'm not really excited, for this upcoming generation like I was with in the previous ones. But kind of piggybacks off what you were saying. But I wanted to move on to this next question that I have for you here, and this one's an interesting one, which a lot of people got really mad about this part. Where in your article you quote said Nintendo is aiming to make this the last console war. Lots of people would scoff at this because of what's going on right now. Can you please talk about that? What do you mean by Nintendo's aiming to make this the last console war?
Well, as I said in the conversation, when I couldn't figure out what Nintendo was doing with Wii, it threw me off. And Nintendo is known sometimes for, that's how leaders work. They're not followers. They take their own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a while to catch on. When I heard, well, it's like this. Apple shows up on the smartphone, for the iPhone and later the iPod Touch. And Nintendo somewhat caught off guard by this. They say, wow. When Nintendo came up, they brought the touch screen to prominence. The Wii menu, everybody doesn't really connect this. The Wii menu is where you see all the little, the little TV screen capsules on your phone now. That interface was done. The iPods didn't look like this before. You know what I'm saying? You remember how iPod looked in the early 2000s? They look like the iPhones do now.
Okay.
So they were taking cues from what Nintendo cultivated with Wii and DS, snuck into the industry with iPhone and iPod Touch. And Nintendo said, wow, they're in the gaming. They're taking the gaming business. So what we're going to have to do, we're going to put out the DSi. We're going to have to try to approach these guys and try to come up with the past. DSi was not enough. Nintendo said, okay, we got to do a nuclear option. We have to make a handheld they can't deny. We have to protect the handheld business. Nintendo always treats their handheld business as first. A lot of people don't recognize this.
Mm-hmm.
The handheld business comes first before the home business.
Mm-hmm.
You look back to the Game & Watch before the NES. You look for the Game Boy before the Super Nintendo. Virtual Boy messed up, but it came before the 64. Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance came for the GameCube, DS came for the Wii, 3DS came for the Wii U. So Nintendo took this long trek to, that's somewhat of the reason why they took the focus off of Wii. They came to the 3DS to offset Apple and later Google with Androids. They secured that fight. They came back to the home consoles and said, okay, we have to. That's why they lost money these past few years. They had to make emergency maneuvers to keep the business from being eroded, not just from within, but from without. They're fighting four giants. They're fighting Microsoft, Sony, Google, and Apple at the same time. A lot of people don't recognize this. And they couldn't wait for the component costs to come down for the Wii U. Nintendo always takes their time, and they always launch last. You go back, not counting the third generation, but ever since the third generation, Super Nintendo came dead last. 64 came dead last. GameCube came almost just about last. Wii came last. This time they went first. That made me wonder, why would they go first? They always go last. It doesn't make sense for Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Don't they understand that they're going to copy what they do and one-up them and try to outpower them and play the hype game? And it dawned on me that they were making a strategic maneuver. The Wii was the answer, but the third parties kept it from doing what it was supposed to do. So they recreated the Wii more robustly with a new feature that it basically captures everything that the Wii couldn't capture. That's what the gamepad and all these other features are about. It's basically to make a more well-rounded Wii. That's why they didn't change the name. Everybody say they changed the name of Wii to Wii U. No, nobody changed the PlayStation name to PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. They keep the same name. It's the same philosophy. The Wii U is the same philosophy as the Wii, except it's going to capture the everybody market like the Wii was supposed to. And when I say the last console war, they recognize that they get the early start and get Japan on their side first. The Japanese market will offset, just like the 3DS is doing right now. You see the 3DS? The 3DS started out very badly. The 3DS, they launched too high. They, they had to cut the price down. They had to get the games out. The games took a while to show up for a while. Mm-hmm. Same thing the Wii U's doing. The Wii U started off very badly. Well, it started off, had a good launch, then it started off really badly, and they had to wait the games come out. Now the 3DS is on fire because you have Professor Layton with Phoenix Wright. You have You have X coming out over here at Xenoblade. You have all these, like I said, Japanese are coalescing. And Nintendo knows that it's pretty much a war between the East and the West. And they have to start with Japan first, bring it to America, then go to Europe. So once they get the Japanese market on that side, and you got to remember, in Japan, there's only Nintendo and Sony. There's no Microsoft in Japan. Microsoft doesn't count. Microsoft might as well be one of them plug and plays over there. It doesn't count. So
a plug and play.
A lot of be a plug and play. So they know that, and that's another reason why they went to the handheld. Because think about it, the DS dominated the PSP. Sony's come out with the Vita. They have to stop the Vita before the Vita gets a foothold. They stopped the Vita. Vita may come back. I doubt it though. They have to do a lot of work to get this. It's not over for the Vita yet, but it's getting better.
Not if Sony doesn't want to make games for it. I mean, Sony's own developers don't want to make games for it. Where's Infamous? Where's Gran Turismo? Where's God of War? I mean, like, it's been out for more than 2 years, and we haven't got an Infamous, Gran Turismo, or God of War game. So, I mean,
it's shocking.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane that we don't have one of those 3 games on the Vita. Absolutely insane. So.
But the thing is, they locked down the 3DS in Japan to solidify the Japanese market. They get because handheld is #1 in Japan. Home console has always been the junior. In America, we tend to think because it's more powerful. We think the home console is the #1 console, and handhelds are the juniors. We send to our little brother. No, the handhelds now have shown that they are just as robust console as the home consoles. A lot of people play 3DS before they playing their home consoles. Mm-hmm. So Nintendo, being a handheld focus, that's how that NES controller came out. It was a Game & Watch Donkey Kong console. Remember? That's where the Plus Pad came from. They all use their handheld as their premier. They lock down Japan. They get Japanese developers on their side. When you see the Western developers put out more FPSs, more orcs, more realistic, naturalistic, same old stuff. There's nothing wrong with these things, but they don't know how to change pace. Everything has to be the naturalistic art style and a 3D or first-person perspective. They don't understand. They're making movies, or they're making internet. It's almost like FMV Junior. They're doing the same thing that Sega CD did back in the middle early 90s. Nintendo is going to bring this diversity because Japan is crazy. Japan comes up with ideas you would never think of. I don't know if it's a sake or what, but whatever it is, they're imaginative, and they're going to bring all these diverse ideas. And Nintendo going to bring Japan to America. You're going to offset the Western market with the Japanese market. You're going to start seeing the Japanese coalescing, bring more support to the Nintendo side. Eventually, because the Xbox One and the PS4 are too similar to the PC, they made it up redundant. Because my cousin, he's a console gamer. He's become a PC gamer. Sold his PS3. He had one of the original PS3s. He had the Xbox 360. He sold both of them. He's all PC now. He has no enthusiasm at all for any of the other H-gen consoles from Sony and Microsoft at all. A lot of people like this. I see a lot of PC guys saying, "Why am I buying this thing when it's pretty much a GIMP version of what I got on the PC, which I can mod and take further?" Mm-hmm. So after a while, and then the price, what you have here is a mistake. Nintendo knew if they launched early, it would force Sony and Microsoft's hands. You got to remember, they lost billions on the Xbox 360 and lost billions on the PS3, especially Sony. That's why you see Sony, their bonds are down to junk status. They're selling headquarters now. It's very bad for Sony. Sony's in bad shape right now. Microsoft's a lot more healthy, honestly, financially, but they're sort of like in an IBM state. They're going to basically be relegated to business and industry and locked there, so like IBM, like they did IBM 30 years ago. Because in the tablet world, you don't see Microsoft running the tablets and the smartphones. It's Google, it's Apple, it's everybody else but Microsoft. Windows phones don't sell like that. So what's going to happen is they have no backward compatibility. So all their most successful consoles have no way of, nobody's going to, you're going to fight your own self. PS3 took a long time to get the PS2 shadow. PS2 sold for 12 years. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. The Xbox One is $500. The PS4 is $400. The games don't look significantly different from the last generation. They look very similar. Everybody want to say it's the first versions of the new console. That's nonsense, because when I look at Super Mario World from the Super Nintendo, it was very distinctly different than Super Mario 3. You can tell they come out of the same roots, but there was a difference between those different games. Luigi's Mansion looks like a GameCube game. It didn't look like a 64 game. So it's not about the first of the generation. It's basically that's why you see them having a hard time making 1080p games, because they're not ready. They were forced into the situation by Nintendo by their early launch. They had to rush a console to answer Nintendo before Nintendo locked the market down. That's why Nintendo launched early like that. So now they have to fight their own console. The 360 is still selling. The PS3 is still selling. PS3 is, I mean, the 10-year plan is finally paying off. They're finally getting the audience. You know, they're getting, you know, it's a great player. It's paid. It's finally good now, but they put too much too soon. So they're going to fight the PS3, PS4 has no battle compatibility. Xbox One is too constricted. They're sabotaging stuff. And you go to the WalMarts and the Best Buys right now. Look at the lineup. It's depressing. Why didn't they put Killer Instinct on the shelf? Why is it online? Why wouldn't you sell this as a disc game? You don't want to go all digital. All digital makes you you don't have no presence in the regular public's mind. Unless you're bought into this world, you're not going to know about what games they have out. You don't need to be all digital. You have to have something physical representing yourself. What you have on the shelves right now is very uninspiring. They're going to be forced into a situation where they're going to have to basically fight. They're going to fight each other and fight their predecessors. That's what Microsoft and Sony is going to be dealing with. That's going to mess up their money. The budgets for these new games are still going to go even higher than the HD budget from the last generation. It's going to cause a crunch effect, and there's going to be money loss. You already have. Every company. You don't see Nintendo laying off anybody. I mean, people think that Nintendo isn't high enough. You see Activision, EA, they lay off. Companies get canceled, out of business. That's why I put the THQ example and all that stuff, because they can't handle it. It's really exceeding their capacities. And it's going to come to a breaking point in this generation. And when the breaking point hits, that's when you're going to see the concession. That's when you're going to see the Westerns give it up. They can't go to PC. They left the PC. Mobile, they won't go to mobile because they would be in mobile now. Mobile was a hot market. You got to sell your stuff for $1.02 No, they're not going over there. You might get lucky, but most people from the mobile world are coming to consoles because they're not making money in mobile. Mm-hmm. So they have no choice, unless they're going to try to play this Origin game or whatever. They're going to try to make their virtual consoles, like Steam or whatever. They're not going to have any choice but to go to the last console maker that has a healthy business, and that's going to be Nintendo. And that's going to be, you're not going to get this right away. Japanese are going to break first. The West are going to break last, but they're going to break. And once they break, that's when you have the unity I was describing. You will have all the people coming to Nintendo out of necessity because they cannot sustain themselves on their old platforms.
You put it in a very interesting way. You put it, and I can definitely see that happen. What you're saying with the Japanese market, but there's still a couple of those Japanese companies that are holding on for dear life, trying to get that last Microsoft and Sony money. I would say Square Enix, and I would say Konami. Konami flat out hates the Wii U right now, and they don't want to put anything on the system. And Square Enix seems to be like, we don't want to work with you either. We'll mess with your 3DS, but not your Wii U. I think those two companies, they're going to find out very soon that they need to be aligned with the same team, in their country. Especially Square Enix, they're going to learn very quickly. Especially, if they put out the because Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, those aren't announced for Wii U right now. But do you think that those games are probably going to come to Wii U at some point? Because does anybody really think that Xbox One version is going to sell? I mean, that game is going to be a big budget game. Both of those games are big budgets. I mean, does anybody really think that the Xbox One version of Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy 15 is going to sell anything? I mean, I don't know.
It's like this. My grandmother is saying, I'm going to say it in the more PG version, a hard head makes a soft behind.
Yeah.
They are going to their myopia is going to be their doom. They're going to have to learn that there's no earthly reason to deny a Nintendo platform out of spite. There's no need for that. When I look at 2K, the Wii U is not. Oh, it's so much weaker than the Xbox One and PS4. Nonsense. That thing is decent enough to do what it needs to do. It's very strong console, and it's very easy to develop for, like you said. There was no reason why WWE 2K14 did not have to go to the Wii U. The thing it's when you understand the politics right here. Because if it came to Wii when it came out, it would have been out in October. The other consoles will launch in November. Maybe the Wii would have got all that support because that was the first version. See what I'm saying? That's why they don't do that. They don't want to give that edge. So Nintendo have to basically show them who runs the business. That's what this generation is all about. And you know, Square Enix, they're gonna keep playing those games. You know, like I said, hard head makes a soft pine. They're gonna bump their head. They're gonna make a big. They're gonna have another Final Fantasy 14 situation when they have to do the game over. They're gonna have something where they're gonna have to get off their pride and deal with reality. Reality is Nintendo's not going anywhere in this business. They are the root of the business. If you look at the Zelda analogy, they are the great Deku tree of the business. They die, forest dies. You have to do business with the man. You have to do business with dad. Dad pays the bills. You can't walk around the house. Spray crayons on the wall.
I see what you're saying there. So we're gonna go on and move on to there. First of all, I just want to thank you again for all of this that you're giving. This is some great insight to what that article that you wrote. But we're getting into the last half here, and I want to discuss your sales predictions. So your sales predictions that you had on that original article, which was written, I think, in what, August? Was that around the time you wrote that article?
Yes.
I think it was around August. Okay, so your sales predictions were the Wii U would sell 12 million consoles by December 31st, 2013. Obviously, that's not happening. 35 million consoles by December 31st, 2014. 60 million consoles by December 31st, 2015. And a lifetime total of 240 million consoles. So let me ask you a question. First, let me get to the last half, and if you can answer that briefly, then the other ones. How long do you think Nintendo's going to support this Wii U?
But Nintendo's very like a card player, like they are. They hold their card close to chest. I would hope they will have a long life for this console because that is what's needed. I don't think there's no need to just jump generation every 5 years anymore. I think that's really about a dead duck right now. They need to get the most out of this console as possible. My 12 million has failed, just that. The turnaround couldn't happen fast enough. But it's pretty much, I put those milestones as an example to show how Nintendo can turn their console around. I have no doubt that they can turn their console around. And I believe that the Miiverse is one of the keys of what is going to be the turnaround. The Japanese game consolidation I mentioned is part of it. But I think the Miiverse, you got to understand that parents can probably trust their kids on the Miiverse than they can trust their kids on Google Plus or Facebook or even Twitter. It's moderated. It's a healthy community. And that parent's choice has always been the king of parents' choice. I think the Miiverse is going to explode. I mean, now you have the 3DS on the Miiverse too. It's going to Nintendo's the king of cross-pollinating their handheld and home console, and that is going to have a very big effect. It's going to do the same thing that Wii and DS did, but even better because the last generation you had it's a lot more limited online service. This is more robust online service, and it's community based. Mm-hmm. You know, I go on the Miiverse all the time, and it's a drawing here, and it's a drawing there, and there's so many people and friends, and you know, the 100 friend limit is too low. You need more people.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a very friendly place, and I see that being one of the catalysts for Nintendo's. I do see an explosive turnaround. If 12 million doesn't make, we'll just have to wait for that 35 million. I'm very optimistic. I've always been very optimistic on Nintendo's chances on the Wii, and I believe the Wii, if they really struck a certain chord, they were able. People think I was crazy. People still think I'm crazy. I really believe they could have got this thing left on a level of like a microwave or toaster, seen as a gaming appliance, and that thing because it really is. It's the second coming of the family computer. That's what the Wii was. And it's the family computer. You get to be around you could be around the TV and tap the button, and you know, it was a great experience. I believe they could have reached a maximum of 500 million. I was really believing in that. I said at the very least they could at least make double what the PS2 had at the time, and that was at the time it was the PS2 was at 120 million. That's where the 240 million comes from. Mm-hmm. Nintendo was on track. They really had every opportunity to make that. The longer they slowed the console, it would have made those numbers. That's why you see Just Dance is selling now. That makes no sense. The Wii version, not the Wii U version, the Wii version, selling this many record amounts now. Just then, I thought Just Dance was almost like the Guitar Hero. It was almost out the pasture. No, it's not out the pasture. And Nintendo didn't let the Wii go as far as it could. 100 million is disappointing for me for the Wii. The Wii was a lot bigger than this. A lot bigger than this. It was a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So the Wii U, I believe the Wii U will pick up where the original Wii left off. It starts slow. Like the Wii started fast and ended slow. I believe the Wii U will start slow and end fast. I think it will, as more people come into the console and see the Miiverse and start cross-pollinating and start communicating, it becomes viral. As it becomes viral, it sells in a blowout fashion. And I believe it will explode. As long as Nintendo is willing to support it, they can reach 240 million, I believe. It's a little pie in the sky, but I believe great things from the capacity.
Okay, so what about your predictions as far as 30? Okay, do you still think 35 million by the end of next year is feasible, or do you think it's now that the first year's been delayed, kind of the rest of the year? So I mean, I'm basically asking for maybe like a little bit of a revisement. What do you think by December 31st, 2014? How much do you think the Wii U is going to be sold by the end of next year?
Well, I'm the kind of guy. I'm a bit gutsy. I'm a bit risky. I'll go balls to the walls. I'll live and die with my predictions. I will not change 35 million. Okay. I will stay on 25 million.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
That's a lot.
They could have made. They could have hit 12 if they had to turn around earlier. But it was a little late this year. They finally got it. Super Mario 3D World turned it around. We probably turned around in Japan. Super Mario 3D World is a masterpiece. Mario and Father not go in the same sentence together. It doesn't happen. Mario is a killer. But I think the real catalyst, what's going to really explode and probably get the so-called I hate the hardcore. The so-called hardcore is when that Smash Brothers come out.
Yep.
When that Smash Brothers comes out, simultaneous 3DS and Wii U with a strong online. The problem that kept Brawl from going to the heights it could have went is because the online was a little glimpy. If the online is strong with I don't know what to call it. It's not Brawl. What are we going to call it? Smash Brothers 4.
For Wii U, for 3DS.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, that's just what they named it.
when you have, I think it's just a working title. When you have this come on at this console with a very robust online, when you have a handheld version, we never had a handheld Smash Bros. Before, and they're working together, it's going to be it's Pokemon. It's going to blow up. And that's when your people. It's not going to be just the Nintendo people. It's not going to be the new audience that comes from never playing the game before. It's going to bring those Xbox and PlayStation guys over. It's going to be a magnet. There's a lot of surprise Nintendo has. Because Nintendo is the kind of company they don't like to show what they have until it's like they play a game of spades. They bring that big joke out at the last second. They don't play their hand too early.
Like Hyrule Warriors out of nowhere, and then like. Dr. Luigi, Dr. Luigi, you can download that on Tuesday. They just announced that game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm like, oh heck yeah, I was just thinking about Dr. Mario, like playing some Dr. Mario. I think on the Wii, or I have like Dr. Mario on the Wii or something like that. And I was thinking about it. Then all of a sudden, I watched the Nintendo Direct, and all of a sudden they announced Dr. Luigi, and it's coming out, December 31st. And I'm like, what? We didn't hear about this game until a little bit ago, and it's already out. So I mean, I completely. See what you're saying. Nintendo can just drop a game out of nowhere, a good game, a high budget game like Hyrule Warriors or like a really quality game that it's going to be good. Yeah, that looks great. That looks fantastic. I wanted to move on basically.
Before you move on, one last point.
Oh, okay, no problem.
There's another thing I say that will help Wii U blow up, and it's already there right now. A lot of people are sleeping on it. The hidden killer app in the Wii U is Wii Sports Club.
Mm.
You got state by state representation: Arkansas, Georgia, California, New York, British Columbia, Argentina. People love to rep their locations. People love to represent their where they come from, and that's going to be a very big hit.
I gotta cut you off here because here's the problem. You said earlier that the Killer Instinct wasn't on store shelves, so there's no exposure. Wii Sports Club isn't on store shelves either. How are they going to put that game out to the masses if there is no retail version? Do you believe that there's going to be a retail version coming up soon? Because otherwise, how else do you get this into more of the expanded audience's hands that maybe don't want to go and download on the store? So,
well, the way Nintendo's going to do it, I think I think they will put a retail version later on. I think Nintendo's been pushing on digital. I'm put a resistant to digital. I like physical things, but I think they're going to put like refit. They gave us Refit U for free early. But they're going to put a retail version out next month, next year. So I think it's going to be a Wii Sports Club all-in-one version. But the people that come into the Wii U and they see Wii Sports Club and they can play, it's all like it's already there, and you can just jump and then you come. It's the way they set up. You can buy a sport right now. You can buy it for the day. Yeah, I think it's gonna I think it runs with as the console builds. It builds with the console, I believe. I see what you're saying about being all digital, but I think it's different with this case based on how the game is. And a lot of people are getting the Wii Sports Club, and it's really the more the thing sells, the more people that Wii Sports Club reaches, and it helps. That's the thing about the Miiverse, because you can talk about things that go on with Nintendo outside. You don't need Kotaku. You don't need gaming media necessarily. You can have your. That's why Nintendo Direct exists. They basically make their own media, and the Miiverse can go on your PC, on your smartphone. It spreads out, and I believe that's the key to helping get the word out about what they have.
Okay. And yeah, I think I also echo kind of those statements. I just think that the game wasn't complete. It wasn't ready, and I think that they kind of put this thing together somewhat quickly. I'm not sure if they were planning on doing like this Wii Sports Club, but I think that they felt that they needed it, and they needed time to get each game out. And I think that once the game has all of the sports in it, I think you might get a retail release. But that's personally what I feel. Well, that basically wraps it up here, man. First of all, thank you. First of all, sorry about the whole interruption, and I think you probably still hear my daughter going crazy in the background there. Sorry about that. But I want to thank you so much for joining me and doing this interview. It was really amazing. You have a lot of great insight. I want to thank all of the viewers who are watching. Sorry to the viewers as well for that interruption there. But yeah, life happens.
But if you talk to me on PC Charts, we get to a good conversation. Maybe I'll send you an email. We'll have a conversation that way. But PC Charts is my place to catch me. So yeah, my next post, I don't know. It depends on how things go. I'm pretty much gonna. I made that Unity thread not just for the moment, and the fact that it's still pretty hot thread. Like how many months later? 4 months, 5 months. I made that thing to last throughout the generation. I want this to be a constant, ongoing conversation throughout the entire 8th generation. It's going to be. It's probably going to be the defining thread of PC Charts. I created it to be like that. My next post, I don't know. I make random stuff this from time to time. I might have some insight on industry, on smaller issues. Whenever I do, I'll definitely let you guys know, and you can tell your readership, and I love to have I love to debate and have a conversation and talk it through. Even people that disagree with me, I don't have no problem with disagreements. I just want to have discussion. Let's find out where the truth lies in the nature of the debate. That's how I believe.
Okay, well, definitely that sounds good. Once again, I said thank you for joining me. Thank you for all the viewers who've been watching. We had a pretty good viewership here. And, of course, thank you to all the Player Essence community and everybody YouTube that came out to watch. And that basically wraps it up here. Thanks a lot, guys, and we're signing out here. Peace out, guys.
One more thing.
Oh, okay. You got something else?
Can I do my rock impression? So you like my
okay, go ahead. Do some rock, baby.
If you smell what the rock is cooking.
Braden Cole from A Critical Hit Productions, if he's watching, he's going to love that because he's a huge wrestling fan. So Braden's going to love it. That was good. All right, man. We'll see you guys. We'll catch you guys later. Thanks a lot for talking, John.
Thank you, Francis.